one of the questions that I really wanted to ask you, but I think we'll wait for next week. Or should I ask you?
I mean, you can ask, and then maybe I'll answer it.
Okay. Okay. So my question to you is, and I guess it's gonna be a cliffhanger.
It is.
My question to you is, speaking of stereotypes, how did you feel when you first got pregnant with Karsten? Wasn't she sure it's my best friend? 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 Wasn't
Sis. We back again.
We back again. Episode 3? No, 2. Well, I mean, episode 2 besides the introduction.
Yeah.
Okay, episode 2. Back at it again.
I'm excited.
I am too. Last week was really good.
It was really good.
It was really, really good. I know we left with like a cliffhanger. So we're going to dive in because I think it'd be really good for, because I know one of the things you talked about is during this journey is us actually telling our story.
Right.
And the way we ended it last week, cliffhanger, but I think it will be a great segue into you telling us your story. Because we know we talked about stereotypes and all that last week, but I feel like this still goes in with stereotypes because we have our own story, but that doesn't mean that I fit the stereotype.
Right.
It just means that maybe I made some decisions as a young adult or as a youth that maybe was not the right decision, but it's just a part of my journey.
Right.
So, you ready?
Sure.
All right, let's go. So last week, the last question I asked you was, how did you feel when you got pregnant with Karsten?
Okay. So just going into answering the question directly, I would say when I found out I was pregnant with Karsten, I was terrified. A lot of things rushed through my mind. And one of the things, it was 3 major things that I thought about, right? So the first one was, how am I going to tell my parents?
Okay.
Like that was like the most like devastating thing I could, like to me. And then how old was I when I had Karsten? I was 20 something. I was in my 20s. So like early 20s. So it's not like I was like a teenager or anything.
Right.
But I still had that thought, like, I'm not married, I'm pregnant.
Right.
And I did think, how's this going to make my parents feel?
Right.
How is it going to make people in the church feel?
Okay.
So that I did think about that, right?
Okay.
And I was disappointed in myself in that moment.
Right.
Another thing that I thought about was, and we'll talk more about this in this episode, but the person that I was with, I didn't want to be with. So then the thought of keeping my child was a thought, because I knew that person would be attached to us forever. We should have had tissue today.
Oh God.
But that's just my truth.
Right.
Like I it crossed my mind, but then of course I'm like, I would never do that. You know, that's just me. Like I would never, like I made these decisions. I did this.
Right.
And so my child is innocent. So that was like that weighed heavy on me, only because I did not want to be with that person. And that was something I was dealing with mentally, going through it.
Right.
And then in a situation where you're trying to get out.
Right.
And then that happens.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And that's how you feel.
Right.
You're like, I'm stuck. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
This person is going to be attached to me or have some kind of connection with me for a long time.
for the rest of your life, pretty much.
Basically.
Right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or at least until he's 18.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's what people say. Until at least till he's 18.
Right.
So in that moment, it was scary, right? One thing I would say though, and this is why I feel like I adore my family so much. And because I thought the way I thought the conversation was going to go did not go the way I thought it was going to go. And then let's just say this. I had to call you for reinforcement.
Hey,
Hey, sis, come over to the house. I need you to be here. What? Told you. You like, oh my God, sis, really?
got me about to need to change my pants because I'm nervous for you to talk to them because I don't know what's about to happen.
Right. And so in that moment, the conversation was, I got to talk to y'all.
Whew, I
Right.
remember walking down the stairs. That pep
Mom-
talk in your room before we went downstairs.
Yes. That moment of my dad sitting there, my mom sitting there. My sister came to the house and she normally didn't even come to the house.
So they like,
So they
what
are,
you doing
what is
here?
going on? Yeah, like what's happening, right? So then I dropped the ball and I said, I just want to let y'all know that I'm pregnant. Just found out. It was silent for just a second, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that my dad said to me that kind of like was, I'm not upset with you. You know, it was just a conversation of, you're an adult. You know what you need to do.
Right.
We love you either way. Why are you scared? Why were you nervous? Why were you scared? I'm glad you told us. Like, you know, we're going to be
Right.
here to help you every step of the way. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And we love you.
Right.
That was like a relief for me.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, people at church didn't care. I didn't care about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, I think if it would have went a different way and my
Yeah.
parents were upset with me and they verbally told me that,
Yeah.
then I would have felt insecure walking into the church.
Absolutely.
Because if they feel that way, I'm sure people would notice or know, you know what I mean? Or have a
Yeah.
feeling like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like that. So
Yeah.
I was insecure in my whatever was going on with me because my family was supportive. And
Yeah.
they were, we love you. We're going to go through this thing together type thing.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that.
Right.
So walking into the church, starting to show, because I didn't like tell people
Right.
unless you were close to me,
Right.
but starting to show, and then, you know, oh, you pregnant? And then, you know, it was like, oh, congratulations. Da, da, da. And so it was, to me, it wasn't like when I was at church, it definitely wasn't like uncomfortable
Right.
at all. I didn't feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Throughout the whole pregnancy, I was fine.
Right.
Right. So I mean, what else do you?
Well, I
you want
guess-
me to?
No,
what-
we'll stop there because,
Okay.
and I was trying to let you like talk before I ask questions.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
But I guess my question to you is, well, not even a question because you kind of answered the question I was going to ask, because I was going to ask you, you know, when you found out you were pregnant, was your initial fear more so what your parents were going to say, or was the biggest thing that was like making you afraid to say something was the stereotype of people are going to say this is going to happen, what the people would say because of who mom and dad are? But you kind of answered that because you
Yeah.
said it was both.
Yeah.
But
Initially. Right.
but because one thing I can say is our parents and definitely our father, if he's a man of love, okay, and
Definitely.
he was like more so because I think even me, I was like, well, what are the I was afraid of how the congregation would respond to them because you were pregnant,
Right.
right? And so to see him actually get up there once, and I remember the Sunday he got up there and he was like, you know, when he had I think he was referring to like how TD Jakes, all that stuff will happen.
Mhm.
I think he used TD Jakes as an example with
Right.
Sarah,
Right.
and he was saying how, you know, he was, how you thought that he was going to be disappointed, but
Mhm.
he wasn't this. He did have his fatherly disappointments, but he was not
Right.
going to put that on you
Right.
because he already knew that you were disappointed in yourself.
Right.
And his job in that moment was not to condemn you for what you did.
Yeah.
Because it was already done.
Yeah.
It was his job at that moment to love you through it because he knew the backlash that a woman gets in the church. And I'm just paraphrasing the backlash that women get in the church for getting pregnant without being married.
Pregnant out of wedlock.
Yeah. So I think that I definitely can understand that part of when dad tells you, when your father tells you who is in ministry, when he tells you, you're good. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm disappointed because you made that decision, but that's not going to stop me from loving you. That's not going to make me shun you. That's not going to make me disown you. Like, you're still my child.
Right.
And you're not always going to do everything that I want you to do.
Exactly.
But I don't want you to make it feel, I don't want you to feel like you're an embarrassment.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's what I was going to ask you about that because, well, that's what I was going to say about that because I feel like I can relate to you in that even though our journeys are totally different, but I can relate to you on that part because of us coming out of the same home and having to express things to our parents that we would think because of the stereotypes that we've taken on, that we would think that these things would, make them disappointed in us.
Right.
Or our fear of how people would even look at them because we are a mirror or a reflection of them.
Right.
So the bad decisions that we make automatically, it's pointed at them. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're in the middle of them and the people and they see right through us. They see us, but they see right through us and they point fingers at them.
Yeah.
Because it's something you did wrong that caused them to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I did have a question.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like your story aligned with the stereotypes that we talked about last week? I think we kind of just talked about that, but is there anything else you kind of wanted to like go in depth with when it came to how you feel like your story aligned with the stereotypes that people place on the first, like kids of the first family, the prepared kindred?
With the whole pregnancy thing, like I said, we just answered that question, that part of it. But another thing I would want to say, and I don't know if it's like me veering off topic about the stereotypes or not, but I mean, what kind of sort of course, the stereotype is, you could rebel, right? And so in that situation, my rebelling would be going against what my family and what other people in the church may have thought that I was, the type of relationship I was going to be in.
Right.
Right. And so that relationship was 5 years of disappointment, manipulation, verbally, verbal abuse, mental abuse. Really, really bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like I said, that's why I had that initial thought, because I was trying to find a way out, but then that happened.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
But I would say the stereotype of, like I said, rebelling. And this is it's good, but it's crazy, right? I was in a situation where someone was telling me, i.e. the person I was in a relationship with, was telling me that I was wrong for being close knit with my family, right? So somebody who you claim to love, right, is telling you all these things, and I feel like the enemy sets in, and it's like you're confused because you're like, oh, what? Because the enemy can make somebody tell you something and it might sound really true.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So the moments of, you need to grow up, like, why you got your parents telling you what to do? Why you got to go to church all the time?
Yeah.
Why you got to do this all the time?
Yeah.
Every time they tell you to do something, you do it. Yeah. You're a baby. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to be like looked at as a child if I'm in my 20s. Like, I want to be able to do stuff. I want to be and this person made me think this way.
So you felt now it's like the rebellion is coming in.
Right.
Right.
Because I'm now not listening to my father, or I'm sitting on the couch with this person. A family's like, let's go to dinner. Something as simple as dinner. Let's do dinner. Everybody, we meeting up at this place. I got this person in my ear saying, you don't need to go. Why are you going? Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, you're right. I ain't gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, when all I know is hanging with my family and being around my family and being
Right.
comfortable around my family. That's my safe space.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But this relationship had me feeling like it wasn't.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I would say I fell into the portion of rebellion when it came to that. Now, I don't know if, and this very well could be true, but I just assumed that people in the church they noticed that I didn't come to church as much.
Right.
They noticed that I wasn't doing things anymore, dancing anymore. I wasn't, being there and available
Right.
like I was.
Right.
And that didn't happen until I had this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that would probably be how it aligned with the stereotypes, is me falling into rebellion because of what was being spoken to me in my ear. And it changed my mental.
Yeah.
And it made it to the point where I really, really, really was like confused. Like I was battling all that stuff in my mind, and it became hard.
Yeah.
And that literally created a mindset of, like I said, confusion, doubt. Am I supposed to be doing this?
Right.
Am I supposed to be going to church? Maybe I'm not.
Right.
Maybe this is not really me.
Right.
So it was like that. I was constantly battling that.
Right.
And then after having my son going through the mental thing of, I don't want to be in this relationship no more, I need help getting out of this relationship, only person I know I can call on is God.
Right.
I'm in my room by myself.
Yeah.
And the only person that I feel like I can talk to about this, because my family don't want to hear it, because they don't even want me being with this person at this point, because so many things have transpired, and they know, you know what I'm saying, what's going on. And it's like one of those things where I battled mentally, and which is why now mental health to me is so important.
Yeah.
Because I battled with that, right? I had never had any mental issues prior to that relationship. Never.
Right.
I was cool.
Right.
Made it even worse, like I said, feeling like I didn't want to be there, got pregnant, and then after I had my child, postpartum depression set in.
Yeah.
On top of the mental stuff that I had going on. I was a wreck.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Right.
Right? And then I feel like this is like a rabbit hole. We can keep going down though. But a lot of times in church and in families, especially the African American families, right?
Mm-hmm.
Counseling, therapy, what you doing that for?
Right.
Especially Christian families.
Right.
You're going to pray that thing away.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's another reason why I felt like I could not talk to anyone about it.
Right.
Because I was like, they're going to think I'm crazy.
Right.
Mentally, I'm not here.
Mm-hmm.
I've checked out.
Yeah.
I literally have checked out. When I come home, because I'm still living with my parents, so when I come home, you literally just seeing my body.
Right.
Because mentally, I'm not here.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle.
You know, it's so crazy because, like, one thing I don't want, I definitely want to clarify, like, our parents are not the ones to say don't do therapy. Mm-hmm. It was just that growing up in ministry and growing up around, it's always been take your problems to God, he'll fix it all. And so there hasn't been a lot of avenues that have been presented to people, I would say, of color in ministry, because we have just been told that God is going to fix it all,
give it to
and
God.
and give it to God and let it go. Let go, let God, And sometimes let go and let God may not necessarily mean when it comes to your brain. Okay, when it comes to your mental state,
Mhm.
because that's a battle within itself.
Right.
And so I truly believe that that is the reason why God has given us people who have these different callings to be counselors and therapists,
Mhm.
because God has gifted them with the ability to help you to sort out
Right.
what's in your mind that you yourself can't do.
Right.
And so I feel like we have those things here. God has given us those things, and we have to take advantage of the avenues that He gives. If something's wrong with us, we go to the doctor.
Exactly.
So why not be able to go to a
You
therapist
go to,
or a
you go
counselor?
to the doctor and you pray.
Yeah.
Let's do the same thing
Let's do
with our
the
mind.
same with our mind. Let's pray
Exactly.
about it. Let's take it to God, and let's do our necessary work.
Right.
And faith without works is dead,
Mhm.
right? I have faith that God will heal my mind.
Mhm.
I have faith in God that He'll heal me from the top crown of my head to the soles of my feet.
Right.
I know He'll heal me.
Yeah.
It's no doubt in my mind that He will, but I have to do the work.
You got to do the work.
I got to show up and do my part towards my healing to
Right.
ensure that I'm healed and whole in all areas.
Right.
So I feel like that is big that you said that, because and another thing I was going to talk about was just with that whole the whole like depression and all that piece,
Mhm.
is that we as the Black community, we have we shun people
Mhm.
when they are depressed,
Mhm.
or they have anxiety issues, or they're schizophrenic, and all of these
Mhm.
things,
Mhm.
because now we associate those things with demonic.
Right.
Right.
And we don't want to deal with
And
them.
we don't want to deal with them
Right.
because it's too much, right?
Right.
And so I feel as though that is another, when you were talking, that was another stereotype that God reminded me of.
Mhm.
Because when you think about the prepared kindred, you
Mhm.
think about them, you know that they are called out. You know that they are selected, they are chosen.
Right.
You know all these things. So with us knowing these things, and we know that our family is called out and they're chosen, to lead a ministry with a vision and a mission that God gave them, we have to be able to identify that there's everything that happens in our life is going to happen to try to get us off track.
Right.
But we also have to make sure that we're doing the necessary duties that we have to do in order to stay where God needs us to be.
Mhm.
But I said that to say that a lot of times you'll see a lot of prepared kindred that seems to fall into the category of the following. Either you're coked out, you're on drugs,
Mhm.
you have something mental going on,
Yeah.
you maybe had a child out of wedlock,
Yeah.
you're still having kids out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things that people are thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're homosexual.
Yeah.
You're lesbian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You are a atheist.
Mhm.
These are all the things that are attached to grown up prepared kindred, because of the fact that these are the stereotypes that they feel like a majority of people fall into. But it goes back to, again, us not dealing with certain things,
Right.
because we always want to take it to God and not do our work.
Right.
So I'm thankful that our parents are not those parents that are like, take it to God and that's it.
Mhm.
No.
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't like to even say anything. Sometimes the stereotypes makes us be quiet.
Right.
And puts a muzzle on us, because
Mhm.
we're like, I don't want to be the one to tell them that I'm checked out.
Mhm.
I don't want to be the one to tell them that mentally I'm not here,
Mhm.
that I'm depressed, that I'm having anxiety, and every time I go around people, I don't, I feel like I'm in the room, but I'm mentally not there.
Not
My
there.
mind is in the
Right.
different pieces, and I'm having suicidal thoughts.
We talk about it.
We don't want to talk about that, because now I fall in the line of the stereotype of somebody that is crazy.
Yeah. And I can't handle what life throws at
And
me.
I can't handle what life throws at me.
But I could, one thing, like I just said, I've been there, right?
And I have to.
That's a scary spot in space to be in.
That is a very scary
and
spot
nobody
to be
will
in.
understand that feeling if you never felt it before.
Right. You can't explain it.
Because sometimes I've had people, I've said that to somebody, or I've told people my story before, and it's a look of why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't get me wrong, I said that to myself before too. How could you do that?
Right.
You know, how could you do that? But when I was down to my lowest mentally, checked out, and I said that in my room that night, right? And it was said, and it's because I felt like God was not listening to none of my prayers. It was many, 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 many nights where I was literally crying out, like, I don't know how to leave, right? And it sounds crazy just because to some people, it sounds weird and crazy. Because some people will say, well, you could have just walked away. But when you're mentally abused, right, it makes you feel like you need that person.
Absolutely.
When you really don't, right? At all. Not even a TT. So it's just, but the way, and I want to go into this, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
The way God shows up.
Girl, that's what I was about to ask you.
Girl, don't get me started.
Don't start crying because we're having to kiss you.
I'm not. I'm going to try not to.
Please, you don't have to. If you cry, you cry. But,
I know.
But that's where I was about to go to. Because that was my next question. Because I know where we're going. This is my next question. My next question to you was, how do you feel like your story, like at what point of your story was there a turning point where you said, this situation is not going to pull me from God, but God showed up to pull me back in? So we've heard about, you know, how you were, but at what point during your story did God show up? Because you just said you felt like he wasn't hearing you. But at what point in your story did God show up, and was it or was it not right on time?